We talked about injustice. We talked about delay. We talked about how God redeems what people would reject. But today, we need to talk about the other side of the story. Because Tamar was not the only one in Genesis 38. There was another person in the story, a man with power, a man with influence, a man who made decisions that affected other people's lives. His name was Judah. And if we're honest, it's easy to preach Tamar, because we can easily identify with being overlooked. But it's harder to confront Judah, because Judah represents something uncomfortable. He represents the moments when we are not the victim, but the contributor. And here's the truth. Some of us may have had Tamar moments, but all of us have had Judah moments. To understand Judah's transformation, you have to see who he was before it. Judah was not introduced to us in Genesis 38. We meet him earlier, in Genesis 37. When Joseph's brothers wanted to kill him, Judah stepped in, but not to save him out of righteousness. He said, "What profit is it if we kill him? Let's sell him." Let that sink in for a moment. He didn't stop the betrayal. He just made it profitable. That tells us something about Judah. He was driven by convenience, not conviction. He wasn't concerned with what was right. He was concerned with what benefited him. Then in Genesis 38, we see more of his character. He leaves his brothers. He marries outside the covenant line. He raises sons who are wicked, and when Tamar needs justice, he delays. And here's where it gets heavy. Judah created the very situation that he later judged Tamar for. And that's the danger of untransformed hearts. We will condemn in others what we excuse in ourselves. Now here's the turning point. Judah hears that Tamar is pregnant, and his immediate response is, "Bring her out, let her be burned." That's not just judgment. That's harsh judgment. That's someone who feels justified in their position. But then Tamar reveals the evidence: the signet, the cord, the staff. And in one moment, Judah is no longer the judge, he's exposed. And this is where transformation begins. Not when you're comfortable, not when you're in control, but when God confronts you with the truth about you. Judah could have denied it. He could have shifted blame. He could have sought to protect his image. But instead, he says, "She is more righteous than I." That statement is the beginning of his transformation, because real change starts when you stop defending yourself and start telling the truth about yourself. Now here's what's powerful. Genesis 38 is not the end of Judah's story. It's the turning point. Because when we see Judah again in Genesis 44, he's a different man. Watch this. Joseph, now in power, tests his brothers. And he sets up a situation where Benjamin the youngest could be taken. And Judah steps forward. But this time, not to sell a brother, not to profit from the moment. This time he says, "Take me instead." Do you see the transformation? Before, he sold Joseph to save himself. Now, he offers himself to save Benjamin. That is not behavior modification. That is heart transformation. And only God can do that. Now here's where it all connects. Because just like Tamar, Judah is also in the lineage of Christ. Let that sink in. Not just the overlooked woman, but the deeply flawed man. God didn't just redeem Tamar's situation. He transformed Judah's character. Which means this: God doesn't just work through broken situations. He works in broken people. Judah went from compromising truth, avoiding responsibility, acting in hypocrisy, to becoming a man of accountability, a man of sacrifice, a man willing to lay his life down for others. And from that line comes Jesus, the ultimate one who would step forward and say, "Take me instead." Now here's the question: where do you see yourself in this story? Some of you are Tamar. You've been overlooked, you've been delayed, you've been treated unfairly. But some of you, if you're honest, you've been Judah. You've made bad decisions that affected other people. You've delayed what you should have done. You've judged others while ignoring your own responsibility. And here's the good news. God doesn't cancel Judah. He transforms him. So if you've failed, if you've mishandled something, if you've been part of the problem instead of the solution, you're not disqualified, but you do need to be honest. Because transformation begins where denial ends. And so, Judah's story teaches us this: you don't have to stay who you were. The man who said, "Let's sell him," became the man who said, "Take me instead." And that's the power of God. He can take selfishness and turn it into sacrifice. He can take guilt and turn it into growth. He can take failure and turn it into purpose. But it starts with one moment, one honest moment, a moment where you stop hiding and say, "That was me." And when you do, God doesn't shame you, He changes you. Because the same God who redeemed Tamar's story is the same God who transformed Judah's heart. And He can do the very same to you.